All right, Patreon. We are back. It's the Mike and JD show. We're talking all the news in professional wrestling. Let's go ahead and get it started with, Vince McMahon is back, was backstage at WWE Raw this week, and apparently was sporting a mustache and some dyed hair. And it appears that Vince, even though he was not on the creative team at Raw this week, it appears that he might be actually creeping his way back in to the creative team.
Gomez Adams has invaded WWE. Vincent Price. Yeah, so I messaged my buddy from WWE. I think you know him too. I believe he follows both of us now.
Yeah.
So his words were, I do believe we are just creeping toward his eventual return. It seems inevitable. So yeah, I tend to agree with him. I've been saying this for months. It's his company.
Yeah.
Legally, he can't take control right now until after a sale. Now, he also said something interesting to me in that he didn't think the sale was going that great. You know?
Yeah. And you know what? Go ahead and talk about that a little bit. And
Oh, yeah,
I want to pull
sure.
up something that was posted in our chat here. That somebody posted said that there's actually like a little bit of an update. So go ahead and talk more about
Yeah.
that, and then I'll pull up
So
the update.
our buddy who, by the way, I don't even know his name. So it's not like I could out the guy. I talked to him under a pseudonym. He
Yeah.
talks to me under my pseudonym of JD Oliva. That's actually my name. It's not a pseudonym. So he being the dork. He was telling me that he didn't think the sale was going great because the price is probably too high. And I kind of said, yeah, man, it doesn't seem like a great time to sell. Everyone's kind of tightening their belts. We were, debating back and forth about that a little bit. But we both have the consensus that perhaps Mr. Kennedy McMahon is asking for too much money. Perhaps $9 billion is in fact too much for World Wrestling Entertainment. Or I think it's just, I don't think it's just WWE now. Which I kind of concur. I think last summer would have been the time to sell. They could still sell, but I don't know if they'll get what they want.
So this is from a Covalent TV. It says report. I don't know where the report is coming from, but it says WWE set to meet with potential buyers in April. So in an article on WWE being in talks with the state gambling regulators to legalize betting on scripted matches. Oh, so this is from CNBC. CNBC noted WWE is set to meet with potential buyers for the company next month in preparation for first round bids, adding that there are no assurance transaction will take place. It did not state which potential buyers they could meet with, though Endeavor CEO recently ruled out buying the company. The Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund, Comcast, and Netflix, among other parties, remain in the running. This is the first time I've heard Netflix, by the way. I've not heard Netflix before, but this is a CNBC note. CNBC also, one of their lead anchors, their lead guys, said that Comcast was out, but now they're saying they might be back in. I don't know what the hell to believe. So,
well, we're talking about a network here, and not everyone for a network speaks with a unified voice, right?
yeah.
And this reads like a source from within WWE who are throwing things out there. Netflix has never been linked to it. Comcast has always been, but they said distance their network, their anchor on their show said to Nick Khan, mind you, that they're not going to buy. So I don't think this is going well. I don't know who these investors are that they're talking to, other than maybe Shad Khan. Or buyers, excuse me, not investors.
Buyers. Yeah, buyers. Well, Shad Khan did just free up some money this week, $200 million.
$200 million is a lot of money until you're talking about buying a $9 billion company.
Yeah. He sold one of his yachts, I guess, for 200 mil. Can you imagine having a yacht for 200 mil? It's insane.
No, I can't imagine having a yacht. What the fuck am I gonna do with a yacht?
I can't imagine having a fucking speedboat.
I can't imagine a fishing boat. Like, these are things that are unfathomable. What does one do with a $200 million yacht? Do you live on the thing like an overboard? I wouldn't know what to do.
I don't know. That whole thing just seems creepy to me. Like, it's like, what are you doing on a yacht? I don't know, man. Like,
I got nothing.
My mind goes to to controversial places when I think of billionaires on yachts out in the islands and stuff like that. I don't know, man. None of my business. Who knows what the hell they're up to over there?
You ever read The Most Dangerous Game? Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't think the sale is going as well. Now, I have a conspiracy theory.
Oh, let's hear it.
We need a drop for conspiracy theory.
We
got to put that in the BFI notes. We have a note now.
Yeah.
We have Google Notes that we take. We're trying to become more professional every week. Look at this.
Yeah.
I think Vince McMahon has priced this so high to drive out all their competition because he doesn't want to be public anymore. Because it turns out
Mhm.
when you're public, you owe things to other people.
Yeah.
So I do, and Brandon Thurston happened to mention that the King of the Ring and the Queen of the Ring tournaments will take place in, I forget which city, if it's Riyadh or the other one, in Saudi Arabia, which would time out nicely if we're meeting with potential buyers in April.
Yeah.
Make of
Yeah.
that what you will.
Yeah, man. It's signs are continuing to point towards Saudi Arabia buying this deal and then just making Vince the king of WWE essentially. That way he at that point he doesn't even need NDAs. He can go be a Saudi Arabian citizen and then just fucking do whatever he wants.
Like the rest, like the rest of the royal family does. It'd be perfect.
Yeah.
I think there's a reason that that news blew up the way it did,
Mhm.
right? I think it could have been that they made a ridiculous offer at the time and people ran with the ridiculous offer knowing that that Vince and company would take it. But
Yeah.
again, it's too quick to make a deal like that. And I still am of the belief that that's what's going to happen in the long run because I think
Mhm.
these streaming giants are just they're all going, yeah, everything's kind of expensive. Gotta pull back because it just seems like everyone's moving in the opposite direction of spend. It seems like this is a time that everybody is cutting. Yet we're expecting one of these places to spend $9 billion. Let's say they make a deal, $7 billion. Right? It's a lot. I don't see it.
That that's I mean that's more than like the Los Angeles Dodgers. You know what I
Correct.
mean? Like it's insanity how much money that is for a pro wrestling company. Now, keep in mind they have like tons and tons and tons of evergreen content that they're producing all the
Absolutely.
time.
Mhm.
So like they're probably worth $6-7 billion. But man, the 9 billion that came out like a couple weeks ago, it just doesn't. It's like you guys are reaching there, pal.
Well, it's like people are like again talking to our friend. He's like, Comcast would be the best. They'd like. I think the feeling in the company is they want Comcast. I think
Yeah,
the feeling is that they just spent it. They'd save money in the long run. But yes, the problem with that is you got to pony up $9 billion or dollars, and it's not
yeah,
like anybody. It's not like even a megalithic company like that has $9 billion liquid, right? I don't think there's such a thing as $9 billion liquid dollars, right? Like that's just not like you might as well say, I want
no.
like a jability dollars, like make up a googly number, right? It's not real.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta pay those creditors, and it's not like if you spend that money right now, it's not like you're gonna get more Peacock subs right away, right?
Or
It's like,
ever.
yeah, you're probably going to plateau at some point, or just slow incremental growth. But if you secure that deal, now one thing that could happen, Fox apparently has not engaged talks with WWE about the rights to SmackDown. And there's been talks for a long time that Fox might not renew the deal, even though SmackDown is a huge success on Friday nights. They're routinely like the number one show in the demo on Friday nights. They're doing great, but
There.
Fox may not want to spend that kind of money on the show. And if that's the case, if you're NBC and you do buy this thing and then you get to just bring everything in house, but still, you still got to pony up that money. You got to front load all of that money, and who knows if that's going to be worth it.
No, and I kind of agree. I think that's the issue. Is that the issue? I don't think is Fox will re-sign. I don't think they're willing to re-sign at what they paid. Because again, we all of these deals are made on the assumption that the next one will be bigger.
Mhm.
Right. I remember Joe Lanza was floating the idea that Fox should go after AEW because you would get 2/3 the audience for 1/3 the price.
Right.
Right? Which in dollars and cents would make sense. But I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, when you break it down like that of what Fox is paying for SmackDown, are they seeing a return on that investment? I have no idea. And I don't think any of
Yeah.
us could like sit there and say yes or no. I mean, the only people who know for sure are their accountants. And they're going to make
Mhm.
that call when this next round of TV deals, it's not good, right? Because like we've been saying like, oh man, these contracts keep getting bigger and bigger. Well, everything's starting to go the other way, and nothing is the NFL. Now, WWE, and I mention this every week about people freak out about ratings for everything. I looked this week because AEW had like 850 or something like that, and they were not the fourth ranked show on television. I went 850,000, and they're the number 4 show on TV. Mike, there was one show, excuse me, in the top 10 that had 1 million plus viewers. One,
Wow.
the NBA. It was like 1.17. Like cable TV ratings are in the shit everywhere. The only thing bucking the trend is Raw. That's it. It's just Raw.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know the fact the feeling in the company is, what if we can't keep this going? Because it's the hottest they've been in a decade.
What happens when the Bloodline storyline ends? What do
And
you have next?
every storyline ends. The problem is you don't want it to turn to Dusty Rhodes versus the Four Horsemen, which lasted for 3 years. And then when that was done, they had nothing.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, it's crazy, man.
It's awesome. I fucking love this shit, man.
Yeah. Next up, MLW. They're using their Reels deal. With them, it hasn't been announced they've been canceled, but they've essentially been canceled. Off of Reels. They've used that to amend their lawsuit with WWE, saying that WWE's predatory practices and blocking them from being able to come onto Peacock and having exclusivity on Peacock is essentially going to ruin their deal with Reels and putting. I think one of the words that was floated around in the lawsuit, I want to say fatal. Maybe I might be a little bit wrong about that, so don't hold me to that. But essentially saying the MLW is reportedly at risk of losing its cable deal with Reels as a result of WWE's exclusivity with Peacock. That's from John Pollock, man. This lawsuit continues to go down. I don't know that they got a really good case, but it does sound kind of compelling.
Do I think WWE engages in predatory practices that are monopolistic? Yes. Do I think that MLW will be able to prove that? No, I don't. I don't think this is strong enough because their deal with Reels predates WWE's exclusivity with Peacock. Now, Dave is saying maybe they can challenge the idea of exclusivity in general, but I mean, like, I don't think this is the case to try it with, to be honest with you.
No. And I just don't see, like, there's just been exclusivity for a long time. Now there have been other instances where exclusivity was waived, but WWE is under no obligation to waive that for Reels or for MLW,
Yeah.
especially considering MLW is trying to sue them. So
Mhm.
why would they go and then help the MLW when they're actively engaged in a lawsuit against them? Whether you believe in their original lawsuit about Tubi or not, the fact of the matter is, do you really want to be friends with somebody that's trying to sue you? Right? Are you really going to do favors for them? Would bringing MLW hurt WWE on Peacock? Absolutely not. But again, MLW is actively suing WWE. And why would WWE want to help them by waiving the thing? Because UFC waived it for PFL, WWE waived it in the past for UFC, and waived it in the past on the national network back in the day. Remember TNN? Whenever they first went, before it was called Spike, they waived it for ECW, and the ECW was on that channel for a little while. So they did waive it before, but they don't have to. I just don't see how like MLW can prove that WWE should be under legal obligation to do that for them.
So I mentioned something earlier, and I put it in our notes, and I said that as I was listening to Dave this morning, it got me thinking. The exclusive for Godzilla, the exclusivity did bite WWE in the butt once. Is because they signed their deal with Viacom. This is 2000-ish when they signed their deal with Viacom. They were looking to buy WCW the first time in the fall. And if you read Nitro and you listen to, I know Brix is persona non grata over here these days, but Between the Sheets did a really good deep dive on the sale of WCW. And they kind of came to the conclusion that the Turner people were holding it for Vince. Right. And that the stuff with Fusion was never, ever going to happen. They were just waiting for Vince to figure out how to make this deal because they had thought they were the only viable competitor. Vince wanted to buy them in the fall, of 2000, them being WCW, and then continue to run Nitro and Thunder on Turner Networks. Viacom said no. Viacom says that goes against our exclusivity deal. Vince said, no, this is going to be great because then we will control all of wrestling TV and we can funnel the viewers back and forth into these two great shows when we have this huge angle, which kind of didn't happen, but maybe it'd have been different if the timing was better. So in a sense, Viacom pushing their exclusivity is what killed WCW because the only way Turner was going to be able to sell the company to Vince is if they canceled Nitro and Thunder.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, Dave explained that this morning. I think
Mhm.
you actually did a pretty good job of explaining it too, and providing some context. Man, I wish we
Layman's
had
layman's
yeah,
terms.
wish we had Muse on here because he was kind of involved in that. He was like
Yeah, he
around
was
during that time, and but that's an incredible story. But look, but that just goes to show you that was what over 20 years
over
ago.
20 years ago. Yeah.
Exclusivity is not a new thing, right?
You.
So for MLW, you know what? But I hope it works out for MLW. I hope they get a big payday and they settle out of court and the whole deal. Maybe WWE will be like, you know what? We don't have time for this shit. This is small potatoes. We're trying to sell this thing. We don't need an active lawsuit while we're selling the company. Let's just pay this kid off and move on with our lives. And maybe that's what MLW is hoping for. I don't know. It just doesn't look good for them.
Court's on Talk is Jericho this week, and I usually don't like Jericho's pie more, but I will get a listen to this because I really want it because the subject has to come up, right? And I'm just
Yeah.
curious to hear if Court kind of because you can't get too deep in the weeds, but I just want to hear if he kind of lays out his mission statement for this, as I find that interesting. I know I don't think he's wrong in theory. I think that if Tony Khan decided to go through this because they have been locked out of arenas, right?
Yeah.
That is a more legitimate case. But again, exclusivity is a thing. So if you're going to challenge the idea in general of exclusivity, you need deep pockets. MLW doesn't have those deep pockets. So I just don't see how this helps them. I really don't.
Dude. So the thing about Court on Talk is Jericho today
Oh,
is
you
that
listened to it already?
no, but
Oh,
I saw kind of a report from someone who
oh,
did,
okay.
and this was before the announcement was made that Reels went to Peacock, and
Oh,
he's all in on the Peacock deal, talking about how great this is going to be for MLW, and I'm like,
oops.
so I'm gonna listen to it, but I'm like this might be the saddest episode of Talk is Jericho of all time because he doesn't know what's about to happen, and he had no fucking clue. He didn't find out about it until the announcement was made. And he didn't find out that his show was getting canceled until he saw it in the variety paper. Right? Like it's like this guy is probably going through it, man. And he's trying to take it out on WWE, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I give the guy credit for being the little guy standing up against the giants. There's something to be said about that. There's something to be commended about that. But if the show was better, I would feel worse.
Yeah.
I really feel that way. I feel like if this was a really good show, if he was like Paul Heyman in 1997, right, I could feel a little bit more. But show's not very good, so I don't.
Yeah. We got a couple more topics and then we're going to bow out of here. JD, FTR might be signed with AEW long term. Would you like to talk about that? Would you like to say anything about that?
I was gonna go off on a rant, but I'm kind of over it. So I told you
Well,
so. I mean, like, because again, Dax would be like, we haven't re-signed anything yet. Uh-huh. So now, okay, is it possible they brought them back so that the Gun Club could stomp them one last time before they go up to WWE? Absolutely. Is that possible?
mhm.
Do you believe that Mr. Dax and Mr. Cash would allow that to happen?
I
Do
don't
you
think they would have come back.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
So I think that Dax likes to have fun with the Cornette audience because they like
Mhm.
them, and that's also part of his audience that like them. So I think that they're still playing that. I do think they're gonna have an angle where they don't like Tony, right? Or at least they play it out on social media. But I mean, like I said before, why would they go back when they talk about how miserable they were in WWE and Dax talks about how he was in tears just having to deal with Shawn Michaels? It's like, okay, why would you go back? Like, it never made sense to me while people are like, well, they're gonna go back to WWE. And I'm like, really? Really? They're
Yeah.
the most over they've ever been this year, and all they do is bitch about how they're not on television. Why?
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be a choice. Um,
Yeah.
but to
Yeah.
be fair, I mean, like, is it possible? Is it possible this is just a long angle to get the Guns over more? Sure. I think it's more possible that I was right.
Yeah, I let me read what JD wrote in our notes here. It's all caps, by the way. JD talks mad shit about how he's always right.
I was very
Re
fired up when I read
FTR.
that. Re FTR and Vince
Re
because I
F
said that
and Vince.
and
Yeah.
Vince because I was right about that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I get real excited when I put things in the notes, and then like 3 days pass, and I'm not as excited about talking about it anymore. If we had like an everyday show, I'd be a complete madman. Which, thank God. So,
Yeah.
but I think honestly,
Yeah.
AEW TV is better with them on it. So good. I'm happy.